Good afternoon, good evening, good something. Is this thing on? Yep, there we go. Gotta make a lot of adjustments to my OBS. I couldn't see half the stuff I needed to see. I've been using this plugin called Social Stream Ninja to control some of the chats and like different chat things, like if someone makes a comment so I can feature it on the screen. And I'm having to reconfigure a lot of stuff in my OBS setup so I can manage all this stuff on my other monitor while working on Reaper here on the other side. Thanks again for joining me for another impromptu live stream. Don't know how much progress I'll make on this, but what I'm hoping to accomplish today is to complete the edit of these guitars well enough to where I can go back and do the vocals. This is the same song that I tracked last night, but I went back today and re-recorded my guitars because I wasn't happy with what I did yesterday. At the moment, I'm almost done editing David's first guitar, and I figured I may as well turn on the camera. That way, if anybody's got any questions about guitar editing or anything else that I may be doing, I could try to answer those on stream. If you're not familiar with the work I'm doing here at the moment, I'll give you a preview of what it's sounding like so far, just keeping in mind that that a lot of this has not been edited yet. The drums have been edited, the bass has been comped but not edited, and I'm almost done editing one guitar. I'm noticing as I'm going back through this that the tuning on David's tracks is a bit off. We sadly did not tune between every single take, and I know that I've got a little bit of an intonation issue on my guitar, which he used for this recording. I don't mind that little bit of intonation being out, if I'm honest, because it adds a little bit of character, but we really should have double-checked tuning before each of his takes, and you'll hear that as we go. But for this particular song, which is called United, it's about the United Healthcare issue with Luigi Mangione and the CEO of United Healthcare. It's loosely based on that, I should say. And I guess the more that I listen to it, I think that the dissonance that I'm hearing in his guitar helps to add to the feeling of uneasiness. So let's give this a playback as it is right now, and then we'll go through and start editing some guitars, and I'll answer whatever I can. That is not loud enough for me. Give me just a second. Of course, he's got two different guitar tracks, and I may not have these balanced just right, so if you guys are out there, let me know how this audio is to you. And that's what we got so far. It's not sounding bad, but there's some timing issues and I still need to comp a few other parts. So that's what I'm planning on working on today. As I said in the beginning, I started off, I had already been editing David's guitars to get those lined up in a few pieces, so I will get back on that. It actually didn't sound bad as I was listening to it through just then, but I do want to spot check a few things because I want to make sure that our parts gel quite nicely with each other. Just hit the wrong key there. That everything locks in step with each other and syncs up quite nicely. I've got my peaks set to spectral peaks. That just helps me to better see where the notes are actually changing. And if that's something you're not familiar with, if you go to, I believe it's edit, it's in here somewhere. Let me blow this up for you. If you go to view and peaks display settings, and you can change, normally this is at normal peaks, and just set it to spectral peaks, and you can change the color scheme if you'd like, but what this does is it shows a different frequency for, a different color for each frequency, and just kind of helps me to tell when I'm looking at that waveform where a note actually changed. You can also change the display zoom if you'd like, and when you do the display zoom, you can also do that by holding shift and pressing up or down. That changes the height of the waveform visually, but it does not actually change the volume. Good afternoon, young guitarist, or morning, or I'm not sure where you are. Where are you? It is afternoon here, about a little after 3 p.m. So here I'm just kind of making some cuts and making sure that these transients are where they should be. Then I'll go back and kind of listen for any glitches or artifacts that I may have created, because that does happen. With distorted guitars, in a lot of cases, it's not quite as noticeable. And you can hear that it's out of tune a bit, as we talked about in the intro there. But given the content of the song, I mean, I could have him come back and re-record his parts, but I think I want to stick with it and just keep that feeling of uneasiness. Ireland, let's see, what time is it in Ireland? That's the other side of the world, so I'm guessing it is probably bright and early in the morning for you, although I could be wrong. That still sounds a little bit late there. I've got the metronome going in my ear as well, so I can make sure that those are hitting on the clicks. Davi! Play that back in context and see what that sounds like. So that last part there, I want to make sure that his downstrokes are hitting on the grid pretty much, just so that it locks in with the bass and the kick drum where there should be accents. And these are very small, subtle movements that I'm making, but it makes a huge impact when everything is locked in together. 10 p.m. in Luxembourg. This is not too similar to what I do for drum editing. I mean, I'm using the same macros to set up this slip editing mode that I'm using. And I'm just making a cut with a crossfade to the left, and then I'm slip editing the contents. Now, that one right there is kind of odd. I have to listen to that again. Might help if I put my 16th note grid on there, and let me know if you guys would like to hear the metronome as well. I know that can get obnoxious to some people, but it may help for context on this one, since I'm not listening to the drums at this time. And I'm kind of doing a combination of visual as well as listening, and kind of splitting the difference, because it's very hard to pinpoint exactly which part is the proper transient sometimes. Like that there is definitely late. That dissonance is really interesting. late there. I want to get that back to where that huge spike is right there on that downbeat, and let's hear that in context. So whatever else is off here, it's very minute, but you know, I've come this far, so I may as well finish. It's one of those sort of things. I'll just make a few small movements. I think that I will not be quite as strict on these, because once we're in context, any minor glitch that may be there is already masked by the guitar being a bit out of tune, as well as the different layers of distortion that are there. Kosovo, good afternoon or morning or evening. Yeah, guys, I'm kind of curious. If you would, when you check in, let me know where you're from and what time it is. I'm going to solo this again and make sure that these are right, because I made some weird cuts there. I accidentally turned off my metronome. Auto-tune the lead. I'll probably re-record that lead again, because I'm still not really sure what I want to play there. I just kind of noodled through it. I'm going to go ahead and enable the metronome through the stream, and I will try to remember to turn it off when I bring the drums back in. Let me know if it's obnoxious and I'll turn it off. (10 p.m.) So same time zone as Luxembourg. I'm not good at my geography. That one right there sounds a bit off. Looks a bit off too. Very slight, but it's enough to catch my attention. Having to split this section just a bit. T-Pain style. If I wanted to do that, I may as well just do MIDI. Ooh, that one was badly late. Again, this is why I run the metronome when I'm doing this, because a lot of the stuff, it kind of sounded okay-ish in context, but when I try to glue all of these different guitar layers together, they'll need to be, I won't say that they have to be 100% grid aligned and perfectly tight, but I'd like them to be a little bit closer together than they are now. It just helps to contribute to the feel and add more punch to those notes when they're all in sync. Still late there. Backing that up just a touch. And I can see already that I've pulled that one out a bit. We're getting there. We're almost at the end of this track, so I have to keep reminding myself to do my work to the left, otherwise you're not seeing what's happening underneath the chat box there. A little bit more of a shift there, trying to just get those transients right on the line there, so whoops, so those downstrokes feel better. That color's kind of throwing me there. I think I've learned that this little yellow color is typically where he does the up pick scrape. Good lord, that tuning. Okay, so that part is done. I want to go back and hear that in context for that section. It's kind of weird. It's very dissonant and out of tune, but I kind of like it too. Like I said, it creates a weird feeling of uneasiness. Luca, I will answer that shortly. Alright, so Luca asks, let me get that on screen again. How do you avoid glitching when doing slight corrections in guitar takes? You would have to zoom in really, really close, kind of like this. And where I've got my crossfade, if I hold shift, hopefully you can see that the cursor changes a little bit and I can move that crossfade. And you can kind of see what's happening to the waveform as I move it. You essentially want to find a place where there is the least amount of junk happening inside of the crossfade. You can make the crossfade smaller if you'd like and try to target a smaller area. In a perfect world, you'll find a zero crossing for both waveforms, which would be where each waveform is right there at the center line. And that's pretty close. I didn't hear any audible glitching there, but it's kind of trial and error. After doing it for a while, you'll kind of get a feel for where to put things. And again, when you're dealing with distorted guitars, in a lot of cases, it's not audible enough to matter. Now, that is not always the case. I think I've probably lucked out with this one, and everything being out of tune was a factor too. Now, David's second guitar, he just did a single take on that, so there's no comping to be done there. But it would not hurt to go back and take a listen to this, and we can edit this from scratch. Like his first transient right out of the gate is off grid, it looks like. I'm going to change the color. Well, I don't guess I need to. I can just move that right there. And I don't want to be too nitpicky about this one, but I do want to try to give it a little bit of attention. So let's see what we got. Let me get that metronome on again. Like some of those notes right there, those are, what's the word I'm looking for? Those notes are not quite changing as they should. It's a little bit fast. So I can try slip editing that. And I may do more harm than good. Because right now I'm literally just eyeballing it. Let's see what I get. Now, I can hear a very tiny amount of glitch in there, but not quite enough to matter. At least I don't think so. I can try to get a little bit closer to perfect on it. But I know it's not going to perfectly match up. I just want to minimize the damage and get as little amplitude inside that crossfade as possible. And that is much more in time just by making those slip edits. Even without comping and going between different takes, I'm just slip editing the single performance in pieces. And here, I believe that green is where the next note starts. I'm not quite sure. So I'll make a cut back here and let's see if this green is accurate. I may be wrong on that. Also, using the spectral peaks, I want to try to keep the same color inside of that crossfade. And here we can see that that is very late. So I'll just cut somewhere in that sustained note and drag this back. And for this part, which is going to be blended in gently with the other, I'm kind of just looking for some of the major positions. I don't want to go through and necessarily edit this note by note. Like particularly when he's hitting that his low string on those downstrokes, I want to try to get those pretty solid. And hearing that metronome is really helping me to gauge this, because admittedly with the color scheme, it's a little bit tough for me to make head or tail of some of this. Like I guess I could change the color of it, but as I said before, I'm kind of splitting the difference between what I can see and what I can hear. Another late one there. Bring that back. There's a transient there that's a bit late. I want to try to bring that back. And of course that has caused another one to be early, so I've got to course correct on that and take a listen. Let's see, how much grid do you prefer? You seem to be pulling it quite tight, like a little slop. Usually I like a bit of slop, but this one has a lot more tracks than we would... a lot more tracks and a lot more movement than I would usually have in one of my own productions. So I want to try to preserve a pretty significant tight groove to this. I think that the song has a bit of a Tool vibe to it, and if it's too sloppy, I think it will be problematic. I don't mind the dissonance so much, but with his double tracking of that movement, it needs to be fairly close to each other, I think. See? That still feels a little bit late right there. Now that line right there is one that I'll need to automate up, because he did not do that on his other performance, but I definitely like that part. So let's go back and hear this in context up to that part, and I'll turn up that part when we get there. What have I done? Why is it like that? I guess I was soloed and didn't realize it. Sounding pretty good, pretty good. Moving on down. I really hope I get to where I can track these vocals either tonight or tomorrow. That is my main objective, is to get this polished up just enough to where I can do a vocal stream. That's a weird one. Now, something like that coming back in on the downbeat after a long sustain, I do think is pretty important, for sure. Welcome, Steve. Steve! Please tell me somebody gets that reference. A little early on that. I don't mind that little ping there, but I want it to be a little bit sooner. Actually, no, I don't, after hearing it. Yes, cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Here's my little yellow friend again to help me see where those pick scrapes are. Get these downstrokes on grid. I'm just guessing at this one. I just heard that that hit was early. That don't seem right. Let's see. Nope, definitely not. That one's bugging me. I can hear a glitch in that one. And at this point, I'm just kind of moving this and trying to guesstimate where it should be. those are definitely off, and I can hear it in context with the music as well. This feels like it should be way back here. That was a lucky guess. I just used that yellow for the pick scrape and managed to get it spot on, I would say. At least in context, which is what really matters. These are kind of hard to see at this point. I want to get his downstrokes on the low D right here for sure. What's going on, LeBron? If you guys are unfamiliar with Pirate Studios Productions, check out his YouTube channel. He hops on in live streams pretty frequently. He is a fantastic guitarist as well as vocalist, and he has crippling self-doubt. So show him some love. Ooh, that is late. It's weird, it sure feels like it. Which I think at this point I'm going to favor that other track anyway, so there'll be some automation that will mask some of this mess. I like this in a couple of spots, and I like the other in a few other spots. So let me try flipping these the other way around for a second and see how that feels. I think for the time being, I'm just going to focus on these downstrokes. Minor shifts here and there. I do want to get these parts here, mainly because it's easy. Interesting, that should be way back here. Oh, interesting. I just got a notification on my phone of an interview in 30 minutes. I don't think I have to attend that one. Let me check my work stuff real quick. Oh, there is no mention of it, so I will continue doing this stuff. Let me read this real quick. Is it a coincidence for this? It is a coincidence. Let me put this back on screen here. Editing with click and audio feed hard panned. It might be. I'm not even sure if I can. I don't think I have any control over the click panning unless I create a click source track and then just pan that to one side, which I suppose I could do. What's funny is I usually don't do this level of editing on my guitars. I just kind of leave stuff alone and just deal with it because I'm old-fashioned, but slight offsets there. I think we can fix that pretty easily. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. That is going to need a small amount of love to shift that. Definitely want to get that one. And let's check that in context. I think I would probably, for this section, once it's time for mixing, is just automate one of those down, because I've already aligned the first one. So I'll just play with this for a second and then bring it back up once everything's full. A little bit off right there, not a whole heck of a lot. I think that whole previous section can stay just as it is. Started to feel a little bit of the drift as we got a bit further down here. I think that the section before being more legato, it just gave it more room for fluctuation without feeling it so much. I'm going to eyeball this and go back and spot check it. I think I am pretty well satisfied with his parts. Go back and run that again, and I know it's a little bit annoying hearing the same thing over and over again, but I want to be sure that I'm comfortable with it, and I suppose I could go ahead and comp my own part. Because I think that there were a few parts where I may have goofed up on this, so... I want to check my other take there and see if it sounded any better. Actually, I want to change the color of that take. What am I looking for? Item colors. Let me get out of comping mode real quick. That's not what I meant to do. Item. There we go. Just needed a different color on that so that when I do my comping, it makes it easier for me to tell for sure which one it was. Timing's a little off on that, but it looks like it's better on this other take, so let's try that one. That's weird. Did I do that on both takes? Missed a note there. So let's grab that from the other take. Kind of curious to try this other one for timing there and see what that sounds like. Okay, let's go back and check that in context. Kind of want to try the other take here. just to explain, I'm not doing a lot of slip editing right now because I will comp first and make sure that I've got the takes that I want for each section, then I can go back and straighten it up a bit. Here's some squeals in there. Let me see if the other take is better. Sloppy there. I'm very curious to hear the other one. That one was pretty clean until right about there. Let's hear what the other one sounds like. Go back a bit further. Ooh. Flubby note there. Neither one of them's great. I guess I just play that part sloppy and there's not much I can do about it. It is what it is. Now it sounds like I accidentally hit my low E string at the end of that on a scrape, so let me see if my other take was any better. Whoops. That's better. Something kind of stuck out to me there. I think I must just have a hard time transitioning from that D sharp back down to the whatever that version of a D chord is that I do there, because it's the same both ways. Just chalk it up to sloppy playing. It's not sounding bad. That's probably about as good as I'm going to get on that comp. I may end up re-recording later, but at some point I just have to accept that that's just the way I play. So let's go back and see if there's any major editing needs. I'm sure there will be a few. I don't want to edit it to death, but I would like to tighten it up in a few spots. So I've disabled my comping mode, and now I'm just sitting to where I can edit this without affecting which take that I've selected. And since this is mostly eighth notes, welcome aboard. Hey, you were here last night. So Micah, I ended up deleting everything that I did last night and starting over because I thought I could do better. Turns out I was wrong, so I'm sitting here editing my guitars now. I do fine for live, and typically I do fine for my own recordings, but I wanted to kind of get the groove sounding a bit better on this if I can. Rock and roll, interesting you say that. I'm running Amplitude 5 on this, and ever so often, as of late, I have, like, when I launch it, it will crash, and then I have to open it again and it's fine. Now what I find interesting is if I go into my event viewer, which I happen to still have open from earlier today, you will notice that the problem that caused Reaper to crash is Amplitude 5. I don't know if it's an issue with Reaper or an issue with Amplitude. I mean, it looks like it's Amplitude that's causing Reaper to crash, but I'm not sure which one is the original culprit, if that makes sense. But it's interesting to find out that it's happening to somebody else. I just kind of figured it was isolated to me, and I reinstalled Amplitude 5 and it stopped for a while, then it came back. But I'm finding that if I just reopen it, it's fine. Hopefully they'll push a fix some point in the near future. But knowing that it's not just me, I may submit a bug report to IK Multimedia and see what shakes. So I'm curious, are you able to get yours to reopen after the crash? I mean, it seems to only happen when loading a, what's the word I'm looking for? When loading a project, but then if I open it back, as soon as it crashes, it's fine. Sounding pretty good so far, pretty tight. Not even sure why I'm moving this. It sounded good to my ear, but I guess just so I have something to do. For my guitars on this one, I'm using Amp Locker. I was using the Glenn Drover amp, but I found that I liked this PV tone a bit better for this track. Rest well, Davi. I guess we will see you in the morning for your stream. Are you streaming tomorrow morning, Davi? Or was it today? Did I miss it? I think you had recently changed your stream times. Interesting. So I guess I need to look online and see if I can find instances of other people having this problem, and if it is isolated to IK Multimedia, or sorry, isolated to Reaper, or if it's crashing in other DAWs as well. I did check to see if they had any updates for it, and they do not, but I did reinstall it once before, like I said, and that seemed to have helped. I may try another reinstall and see what happens. It's interesting that you can't get it to load at all. So have you had to open projects in like offline mode and then just replace it with something else? What was it that you said? You're using Melda's Guitar Architect. I've not seen that. Let's take a look. I'll pull this over to my other screen here. That is high dollar. Looks complicated too. It's pretty interesting. Oh, Studio One also. Now you got me curious. Now there's some reports from back in 2022. Crash on startup. Interesting. So apparently this is a long-standing problem on different DAWs and different operating systems. And I've actually never had this happen before, I think maybe a month or two ago. Sounds like I may need to print this just in case. I think at this point, instead of being quite as meticulous as I was on the others, is I'm listening to it more in context and just moving things that catch my attention. Kind of anxious to get to the vocal part. I know my bandmates are, because they're wanting to release this, even though we've got another track that's finished. We definitely want this one to go out next. Switch my grid there real quick and try to get those scrapes on. A little bit of push and pull there. I think I did a fairly decent job staying on it, but sticking out a bit in some cases. You know, I've been pretty pleased with amp locker from Audio Assault. I've got quite a few of their amps, and they've got NAMM player baked into it now as well, which is pretty cool. This Christmas amp is really good. And there's a few that I don't own, but quite a few that I do own. I really like the sound and the features of Amplitude, but I keep going back and forth as to whether I like amp locker or not. I am guessing at this, so I hope I got that right. Sounded good. A little early there. Quite early there. And at this part, I want to try to tighten up just a touch. It doesn't look like it needs much, just a few small moves here and there, which will inevitably turn into a billion tiny cuts, but we'll see what we get. I don't think I meant to make two of those cuts. Let's see. I think I meant to cut there. That one's way off. Of course, it's because I pushed it down there just now, but I always have to go back and fix things that you created after you make your first slip at it. Get this last one cleaned up. going to be a fun one to tighten up. I think I may need a different color on that. I just need to nudge that just like a millisecond to the left. That's what really stinks about this, is these are not off by much. But because I edited the first one, I gotta do this one. And I think for this, I could probably use the transient detector and quantize. But just like with doing drums, I think I know it would be a lot faster, but I would prefer to just go ahead and do it by hand, because once you do the quantizing, you still got things you got to go back and manually fix. It's about like using AI for coding. It'll get you a decent amount of the way there, but still you got to go back and fix a bunch of stuff. Curious to hear this once I get these all lined up just right. I'm glad this is a short part. This is a lot more editing than I'm used to doing. And I certainly hope that it'll be worth it when it's all said and done. Let's try that. I think I may have heard one artifact in there. Yep, right there is one for sure. Let's try moving that crossfade. It's like I'm hearing a double pick happen. Another one there. I'm curious if you guys are hearing it too, or is it just me? Okay, that got all of the ones that I heard there. Get this next section, which needs just a little bit of a nudge. It's interesting when you watch a lot of the big time producers on YouTube that are doing mixing tutorials and everything. I wonder how much of this they do versus having their assistant do. It's like if you've ever been on Nail the Mix, for example, and you get those tracks and realize how easy they are to mix compared to some of the stuff that we record at in our home studios or project studios or what have you. But you have to realize that stuff is recorded in pretty significant studios, and in most cases, and I don't say this to discount the ability of the person who's mixing by any stretch of the imagination, but they usually have a studio assistant who handles a lot of the editing and stuff for them and just passes them the pristine tracks to work on. If only we all had that. I will say there's a lot to be said for having good tracks to work with. Mine are far from the best, but I'm really pleased with how my drum recordings come out. They have come a long way since when I started, and I love recording live drums. The drummers really appreciate it too. Just to know that you can record your kit and it does not have to be sample replaced. And that it's actually you playing. But I digress. Few more eighth notes here. Ooh, that one was way off. I'm really hoping I don't hear any glitches when I play this back. Some of those look suspicious. That sounds pretty good to me there. And Dub Cadet, it was very subtle. Quite frankly, it's one of those things that you may have to be accustomed to listening for. To me, I was hearing what sounded like an obvious double attack that didn't really happen. And I say obvious, but again, if you're not sure what you're listening for, you may not have heard it, but I'm glad that people didn't hear it. A lot of times you can hear some stuff in solo that you don't hear in context, but that kind of grabbed my ear when I heard it without trying to listen for it. What is going on, Mr. Butler? Welcome aboard, as always. Let's see here. So I'm curious if I'm able to get this pretty close to done, which I think I'm pretty close to it. Would you guys want me to attempt vocals today, or should we save that for another day so it's more focused? I will let the people decide. This is nitpicky, but those pick scrapes right there were bothersome, so let's go ahead and fix them. See, that little move, it made a huge difference to me. So. Get those scrapes on grid. another scrape here that needs a little bit of a shift. That was sloppily played, but I think I can fix it. And I'm kind of, again, looking at these color changes in the spectral peaks to help me see where the notes are changing. A little bit late on the attack there. Pretty pleased with that. Let's take a look at the bass and see if there's anything that needs some love there. There's a couple of spots, but I can't quite remember where they are, so we'll focus on that. I love Jason's bass playing on this. One thing that I'm wanting to fix now because I want to hear that part badly. So let me throw a volume envelope on David's guitar here. Is it this one? Let's see. Yeah, that one. I want to boost that part up a bit. Yeah, I dig that. So let's bring it up a little bit more. Now I can hide my envelopes, whatever they're called. Go back to my bass. A little bit early right there, enough to where I noticed it. Which made this late now, so let's move that back. I'm gonna have to change the color on that because that's making my eyes hurt a bit. Try that again. Set items to 1 random color. Not that one. That's the same one I started with. That'll work. It's a little bit more contrast. Actually, I think I may try something different. I need a bit more contrast in that. A smarter me would just go in there and pick a color manually, but you know, I forgot I had that palette thing on here. Let's try, just try a few things. That works. I can definitely see the contrast there. Need a little bit of a nudge here. That should get the rest of that lined up. At 1.5 speed. Interesting. That was weird right there. Definitely want to get these on. Just making sure we don't have any noise from the bass during that section. A little bit early right there. Now I need to bring this back a little bit. Let's go from there. That should get us. go back and spot check a couple of parts in that bass run. Very slight right there, but it caught my attention. Let's see here. Just give it a very slight nudge to the right. Yeah, if you listen to older records, even not so older records like, well, let's take Give Me One Reason by Tracy Chapman. By like 15 seconds in, the tempo's dang near doubled. I'm hearing something in there that's making me potentially want to choose a different comp, a different take for one note. Right there. So let us try here. Let's work on these bass runs here because they're pretty cool. I need my metronome. Get the drums brought in as well. Those are ever so slightly off, but enough to where I can feel it, so I may as well shift it. I really like that one right there. That's a cool run. Not to be confused with Cool Runnings. That's a totally different movie. Alright, I think that is about all the editing I wish to do for the moment, so did you guys decide? Do you want me to try to do vocals this evening or save it for another time? Let's listen back through this while the people speak in the chat. I'm hearing something halfway through that, and I'm not sure if it's in the drums or what, but I need to find it. right there at that split, so it may be the drums. Yep, it is the drums. So we have got a crossfade that we need to fix. Interesting. Let's try something here. Boop. Let's use that. Oh, I see why I did that. Because of that hit. So I'm actually splitting a hit there, and that's why that's happening. That sounded a bit better. Okay, let's try that again in context and yeah, I think I probably need to think about calling it a day myself. But let's run back through this with everything in context again, and then let's just plan to meet another time to get these vocals done. Pulling out a mic stand and doing this one rough take. Curious what you guys think about the way that this is mixed so far with the completely different guitars on different sides, but it's how we are live, so I guess that's the way I think about it. Alright, well there is that. Let me catch up on, whoops, let me catch up on chat here. Yeah, that's kind of my thinking. I guess I look at a lot of this when I mix in terms of how I would perceive a band on stage. And I understand double tracking. Like each of these parts is double tracked, but the second take is just blended in ever so slightly underneath to help thicken it up. I had thought about maybe doing more, like mirroring one on the other side at a bit of a lower volume, but I could do the same thing just by adding, like if I were to put a PSP chamber, for example, on my guitar bus, and that would fill in some of the other side with the opposite side. Let's see here. There's without. Just that little bit added in there actually sounds pretty nice. Need of a good reverb plugin, I would recommend this one. I think it's still free and it's zero latency. Not sure, but I may have heard a glitch. Nope, no glitch. It's interesting with all that dissonance and slightly out of tune that we talked about before. It's not quite as noticeable. I mean, it is on these parts, but it sounds great in context. And I think it'll sound even better with the lyrics and the vocal stuff on it. Jason's an amazing bass player. would say that that is sounding pretty good. I think I will save the vocals for tomorrow because it sounds like I got family on the other side of the wall. So thank you guys and girls for coming and hanging out for another unplanned impromptu live stream, and perhaps we'll see you tomorrow. Till next time.